is, and you hit the nail on the head. That's the operation of what? You were asking, what exactly is the issue
Yeah,
he resolved?
right.
Well, this is the basis to all of international lubricants.
Right.
And these two products, they both sell over 1 million bottles a year each. Now it all started in the beginning of 1972 when the Endangered Species Act came into effect. They outlawed the killing of whales.
Right. Right. Wow.
And that is a sperm whale tooth, a real tooth.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
And
That's amazing.
I bought that in Russia, at St. Pete's. I wanted to buy 3 of them, but they wouldn't use my American Express card. I got mad, then I had to use cash, and I went back in.
Wow.
Now, to refresh everybody on what a sperm whale is, this is a sperm whale. It is the 3rd largest whale of the whale system. In actuality, I think they're the second or third, right in that line. They get to be 60 tons, and of the tonnage, 1/3 of it is oil. Now, the sperm whales have been hunted since they could actually get a skiff on them with a harpoon. And they used it in lamps, waxes, many, many different things. It is a liquid wax ester. This whale would dive over 1 mile to eat its desired prey, which are giant squids. And when they kill a whale, man had not ever seen a giant squid. In fact, just until recent years, have they actually caught them. But they'd find 50-foot tentacles inside of these whales.
Wow.
50 foot.
That's
We used 13 million pounds a year until 1972, and virtually all hydraulic and gear fluids. Hydraulic is a transmission oil. So you just need to remember what a transmission does. Now, the most complex of all fluids used are transmission oils. When sperm whale oil was used, approximately half of that 30 million tons, 15 million tons were used in automatic transmission fluids, approximately half. The other portion was used in hydraulic, gear fluids, anything where you're transferring power with liquid lubrication is the best way to describe it. And so it all deals with the science of tribology. When sperm whale oil was eliminated, and they went from Dextron meant sperm, Dextron 2 meant non-sperm. The registered trademark of General Motors. And what that created, by 1975, the number of transmission failures in North America skyrocketed from less than 1 million to over 8 million, with approximately the same number of cars on the road.
wow.
The transmission used to last the lifetime of the car, and they had to shorten the lifetime of the transmission to 15 years before you changed the fluid. So you had to change it 2 to 3 times before you got to 50,000 miles. But when sperm oil was in there, they never changed it. They never, it was never changed. It was still working generally when the car went to the wrecking yard. What died was the engine, the gearbox, or the body of the car. So you went from a situation where fill for life to 15,000 miles.
Wow.
It created, and because the second most expensive component in a car is a transmission, it created Amco, Gottman's, and thousands upon thousands of transmission shops. And they substituted tallow. Tallow or pig fat is the primary substitution that was done. But the bigger problem was when they had to balance. It went from 8 different components in the additive system to 16 different components. They literally doubled, where you didn't need a anti-foam agent because the ester retards foaming. Didn't need it. They didn't need seal swellers because it naturally, through the use of the ester, would keep them pliable. So there was a whole bunch of various components that had to be now added and balanced. And every time you create a new material, there's a new balancing act that has to take place. Some of the materials, like a polymethacrylate, which is what they call a viscosity index improver, is like a ball. The hotter a fluid gets, the more unwind that ball becomes. And what it's trying to do is keep the fluid at the same viscosity no matter how much temperature. But there's a breakage because it's not as stable as what sperm whale oil was. Sperm whale oil transfer oil out of the case. It would act as a friction modifier, an anti-wear agent, and we made a dibutyl hydrogen phosphide added to the liquid wax. Now, to tell you what that really is, that made a very sophisticated friction modifier. Phil was working on that. Dr. Philip Landis was working on that when he left Mobil Oil and retired from Mobil and went to work. Well, he didn't. He was the distinguished scientist in residence at Rowan University, and they changed the name of that university, but that's him,
Wow.
the older gentleman.
Yeah.
He's 96 now.
Wow.
Jojoba oil at the very beginning. And jojoba would have played a significant role in this if it wasn't for the situation with the fact that when they grew the jojoba plant, what grows in the deserts, have you heard of jojoba?
Yeah.
There were billions upon billions of dollars spent and hundreds of thousands of acres down in below Tucson, all the way down into Mexico. And after 5 years, you can tell whether it's going to be a male or female plant. Well, all of that acreage, and there were tax schemes, became literally worthless because they'd have one female and 1,000 male plants.
Oh boy.
They couldn't tell until it was after. Then they've gone to grafting now, but there's only about 5,000 acres left out of all this money was spent.
Wow.
And sperm whale oil, I mean, jojoba oil is a direct replacement for sperm whale oil. It's identical. And it's interesting that takes place in a desert and the other takes place in a mammal in the ocean, which dives 5,000 feet there to protect the spinal system, the nervous system, so they can withstand the pressures down deep like that. So it would make sense in fluids, and of course that all started in '69 with sperm oil being in the original Dextron fluids until 1972. Why didn't major oil go the direction that we went,
Yeah.
where we use high uric acid rapeseed oil? The reason they wouldn't is because they always use tallow. The four primary companies in this industry is number one, Lubrizol. Number two is the old Perriman's division of Excellent Chemical, which is Infinium. Third biggest is the old Ethel Corporation, which is Afton. And the fourth largest is the Oronite division of Standard Oil. They control 99%. Now that Mobil's not involved, Mobil Chemicals not involved. Today, they control 99% of the world's additives in drivetrain fluids. Meaning they're making the gear fluids, they turn around and they sell it to Shell. None of the oil companies are really basic, except if they own one of these arms in their own chemistry. They're not. So, in the bottom of that situation, sperm oil costs $4.50. It costs $30 a gallon to make our material. Roughly, what is that? 6 times? So, at the beginning of my venture with Key Oil, International Lubricants, was to really develop a chemical company, not to really just become a bottle business. But the reality is the materials we're developing were too expensive. Major Oil was not interested, and we had to create our own market. General Motors tied us up at the beginning and told us they were going to take care of us because we corrected the 440 T4 700 R4 transmissions with their torque converter shutter problem. But as it turns out, they were working with Afton to break down what our friction modifier was. And they eventually did it with a gentleman by the name of Andy Pape, who worked for Phil Lannis at Mobil Oil. And they have offices right in General Motors. So once we discovered that this was not going to happen, we meanwhile had burned through some more money. We were going for research grants, and we were successful. We got $3.5 million in research grants from the Small Business Innovative Research Group and the Defense Department. Part of this work was to develop, further develop our esters and their derivatives. I think I have skipped something here.
Yeah.
The triglyceride that we make the synthetic sperm oil out of is high-uric acid rapeseed oil. Now, rapeseed you would know as canola. You know what canola stands for? Canola?
I used to, and I'm trying to play it.
It's just a cooking oil.
Oh, yeah.
C18 fatty acid.
Yeah.
It stands for Canadian oil.
Oh, that's right.
Canadian oil. And that was developed by the Canadians, and you cannot grow high-uric acid, which is a C24, next to a field of a C18 fatty acid, because they'll interfertilize. So there's only one state in the United States that produces high-uric, and that mainly goes to China, and that's the state of Idaho. They grow no canola. In Canada, Calgary is the only state that grows high-uric acid. Well, where we did our reactions, because that's a triglyceride. You have a fatty acid, you have a linoleic and a lanolate material. These two materials are separated through hydrolysis, and they're sold off as byproducts for soaps, menial stuff. They're low-end materials compared to the fatty acid. So once you get that fatty acid, we then buy a gourmet alcohol from Europe. And under 300-degree temperatures, we would esterify the two molecules together. So there's only 2 companies in the world that make the gourmet alcohol, and they control the cosmetic industry, which I haven't mentioned yet. 25 million pounds a year of sperm whale oil was used in cosmetics. In fact, you've heard of this epicock, which is the throw up of a sperm whale.
Oh, yeah.
It stinks like holy heaven, and they find it as a big ball on the beaches, and it's worth $250,000 about
Wow.
the ball, because they use it as a fixative for perfume. And so there is a limitation to the amount of alcohol that's available. So from a growth standpoint, also that's a limitation for major oil, and why we have had so much success, because they anointed us to get that alcohol, which was critical. Then once you react those 2 materials, then with a peroxide material, you make that dibutyl hydrogen phosphide adduct to that double bond that's in that those 2 parts of the molecule, which makes it even more oxidatively stable than the 2 double bonds that are in sperm whale oil. Okay, now we've gotten through the basis of how the product and why the product was so important. By the time we entered the market in 1989, my guess, there was approximately 13 million transmission failures a year. That's the best guess I can make. And the first year, our sales
That's why I'm tape recording this. There's no way you can even understand how to write some of those words.
But I can tell you where these breaks are, but I'm going to do it this way first. 2006. That is my sales.
Wow.
And that's something.
That is really something. Wow.
We grew every year for 18 years. In 2006, I was told that I had an enlarged heart. And the doctor said, if you keep working like you're working, I was working 7 days a week, and I'd fly at least 5 of those days. They call it a pilot's disease. Actually, pilots get this a lot, because man's not designed to fly like this. So in those 18 years, I flew 1.4 million miles with just United Airlines.
Wow.
Man, I went everywhere. And that's not including all the other airlines. Some places to get to, you have to take other airlines, because United didn't have it. And always I had to go through either Chicago, Denver, or Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Those are your 3 hubs in those days. Remember, they controlled the in gates.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why I live here, in 1981, I bought this house and redid the whole thing. And the reality is because I needed to be by the
By
airport.
the airport, yeah.
So that's why we ended up living here, and we've done several things to this house. I'll show you some things in a little bit. So in that period of time, the first 5 years, we just focused on the transmission industry. And then, first 7, 8 years, focused on the transmission industry. So the last 10, I worked on what they call general automotive. So the first distributor I got was Napa. The second distributor was O'Reilly's, and CarQuest in this category. And by 2006, worldwide, Ballast is foreign.
Wow.
We had set up all these distribution points from zero.
Wow.
What happened was, after this is, I call the March from Hell. We went, four of us, from Bellingham, Washington, to San Diego, California. And we hit every transmission shop on the West Coast and gave them a red bob. That's how it all started. I had to do it quick because we were running out of money again. And of course, I raised money. We even had Saudis invested in ILI. I ended up with 73 stockholders that all made money out of this project. Now, the original investors were just about all University of Washington grads. Zates, predominantly, my fraternity brothers. So, that's where a lot of the original seed money came from. Then I found Dr. Landis in 1984. And that was critical. And then basically I hired a gentleman from Boeing, but he worked on some cutting oils, but he was just not competent. The key to my whole deal was to find Dr. Landis. He was head of all mobile oil applied research. This was our first brochure, and on the back, Philip S. Landis was born and educated in York, Pennsylvania. He received his BS in chemistry in 1943 from Franklin Marshall College, where he was elected Phi Beta Kappa. After 2 years employment at the City Services Refining Corporation, which is now Mobil, in Lake Charles, Louisiana, he attended the University of Kentucky and received his MS in organic chemistry in 1947. Employed by Mobil Oil Research and Development Corporation from 1947 to 1948, Dr. Landis was awarded the company Ascending Fellowship. He attended Northwestern University and received his PhD in organic chemistry in 1958. Now, what's significant about Northwestern is one of the best chemical schools in the United States, by far. His initial work with Mobil involved the synthesis of hydrocarbon soluble additives for fuels and lubricants. Now, significant are additives. At Mobil's Applied Research Laboratory in Paulsboro, New Jersey. He was a group leader in petrochemicals for several years and transferred to Mobil's Central Research Laboratories in Princeton, New Jersey, where he led groups in studying catalysis of organic reactions and oxidations. In other words, sperm oil.
Yeah.
A lot of it was sperm oil. He became manager of the Applied Research Group in 1970. He had over 1,000 chemists and technicians on it. In 1973, they had announced Mobil 1, based on polyalpha olefins, which is the cornerstone to, you see the little guy talking about 20-year life? Well, Mobil's kind of screwing this up because there's two different Mobil 1s now they're selling. Mm-hmm. The other is severely hydrotreated base oil, and that's nothing compared to a PAO base, which I use in all my cars. And Lube Guard, of course. Dr. Landis' early career was concerned with the mechanistic studies of elimination, rearrangement, and pyrolysis reaction of additive preparations for fuels and lubricant applications of catalytic organic reactions and of petrochemicals. That's a mouthful, but that's the core to a total additive system. Phil developed the red bomb. Phil spent an hour a day with me for 6 years teaching me.
Wow.
So every day I would pick up more and more. So I don't have a back. Well, I took all the chemistry for engineering at the U. I started out in engineering. My dad was a civil structural engineer. He holds more than 100 patents and has published extensively in major technical chemistry journals. After retiring from Mobil in 1984, he joined the staff at Glassboro State College, which is Rowan now, Rowan University, where he is distinguished scientist in residence. In addition, he is presently a lubrication design consultant and stockholder with International Lubricants of Seattle, Washington. So, quite a deal. That's, of course, this product. And in 1993, General Motors actually wouldn't help us, but ZF of Germany, announced the requirement to use our product in all valve body problems that they had throughout the whole system. Now that gave us Saab, Volvo, BMW, Peugeot, Citroen, Volkswagen, Audi, and Subaru. All at once.
Pretty nice. Yeah.
Well, it was critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at my sales curve.
Yeah.
That sales curve, you'll see the ka-chunk.
Yeah.
You can see where these ka-chunks, about every 5 years, a ka-chunk.
Yeah.
Something happened to create that. And he's my best friend. As a knowledgeable man, he helped me so much. Think the world of it.
Yeah.
Just with him, in fact.
Yeah.
In fact, I spoke with him yesterday. And how I got to Phil, I guess. Do you want to know that? How I met him at the Browns Palace for the American Chemical Society. He was the lead spokesman for the American Chemical Society at that meeting in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, nice.
So I told him my story, and he says, I'll help you.
Oh,
Didn't ask for a dime.
wow.
Talk about a wonderful man.
Yeah.
So anyway, Washington kind of has its name up quite a bit on ILI
Yeah.
because the grads gave money for seed capital and growth capital.
Yeah.
So, and especially Zeta Psi. So I want to make sure that gets in there.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that means something to
Yeah.
me. So after I don't know, I skipped probably a ton of stuff here. There's a couple things that I think you can take with you.
Yeah.
These are
Okay.
articles. There's what a sperm whale. You see a man standing there?
Yeah.
That's how big a sperm whale's mouth is.
That's stunning. That's
There's the story, and that's the patents behind us that we developed, which is over 100 U.S. and foreign. There's the background of Dr. Landis,
wonderful.
all in one piece.
Excellent. Yeah, if it's okay with you, I'd love
Yeah.
to borrow. I can photocopy it and I can get this back to you. So,
I appreciate that. And I gave your friend
Yeah.
a lot of stuff too.
Great.
I'd like him to come forward with that.
I'll check. I'll call him as soon as I get back.
You can have that.
That's wonderful.
And what's good, another good one, see that's done in 2006.
Yeah.
That is the year that, of course, I had to stop working so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hired other salesmen. So what ended up happening is we never grew again.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has their heart and soul in it like
Yeah.
someone who's invested everything they've got. And that's how we ended up when I sold it.
Mm-hmm.
I sold the end of 2011, 2012 actually. So
So I see.
it flattened out.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, and he gave me enough knowledge that a friend of mine in 1993, we put more of the phosphorus compound in this, and this highly friction modified product actually went beyond the red bottle in sales.
Really?
In the professional in the industry. So that was Phil taught me enough that I could become a formulator,
Nice.
or what they call a tribologist.
Yeah.
He's paid me some very kind words.
Yeah, I can sure see
So, out of all those years. Now, what I've got, also, this
Gretchen,
is,
Jon Marmor. Gretchen
Hi,
Marmor.
John.
Hi.
It's a real
John,
pleasure to learn about
congrats.
you.
that. Real pleasure to meet
Yeah,
My
you.
nice
wife.
to meet you
Thank
too.
you very kindly.
Oh,
She's a big part.
Yeah.
She's done a lot with this company.
Right on.
She's worked with me hand in hand, so. What this has, this is just a catalog that we made up. But you can see how the man is.
Yeah.
This is the reactors that we actually make the esters in.
Wow.
And that's was done in Chicago at the time, in Skokie, at the Calgene plant. And it's not, there's two Calgenes. There's a Calgene pharmaceutical, and of course here's a better picture of
Yeah.
the whale. Let me do that
Wow.
too.
Oh, thank you.
That helps you with, if you
yeah.
want to look something up there.
Sure.
Yeah, it's got quite a bit. Now all these really red things that you see on this, these are product awards.
Oh, wow.
Voted on by the industry, the professional industry, by the Transmission Digest. And we won all this for all these various prizes. Certainly the red bottle was the number one. Black was probably number two.
Wow, very
So
impressive.
you got that. In
Yeah.
Okay. As we got bigger, of course, we attended many shows all over the world. We were doing shows, you can just tell by the distribution network, we were
Yeah.
everywhere.
That's for sure.
This is some pictures of our booths, and you'll see how large these bottles we made.
Oh my
I made bottles on turntables for marketing purposes. So I ended up graduating from Washington in business. But I have a lot of engineering
Yeah.
that I did for 2 or 3 years until I decided I wanted to be social chairman, have fun. So, you want to look through those pictures?
Sure.
It's kind of interesting. And this is easier, maybe easier. See the guy?
Oh, yeah.
Look how big
Look at the
this-
size of that.
And then look at
And
the
that-
picture, yeah, overhang.
Oh, my goodness.
And I had a 2-story booth in the back. It cost me $100,000 at the end. It cost $100,000. I'd have 10 people down there with me
Yeah.
every year.
For each show, 100,000 for show.
Show. That's SEMA and Apex. That is the biggest automotive show in North America. And then I have, in Germany, they have what they call Automechanica. That is the largest show in Europe. I have been in that show at least 6 times. I've traveled extensively all over Europe. Everywhere where automatic transmissions exist, we've been to. So we ended up with thousands and thousands of points of distribution. These are some other pictures. This is Sam Amello. If you've ever watched Shade Tree Mechanic on TV,
Yeah.
that is Sam. He looks real short on TV.
Yes.
He's really a big guy. He just has a guy, Brown, that works next to him. He's 6'8". Of
Wow.
course, that's me. And that's my head of sales, Ken Thomas. So
Wow.
that's some of the stuff.
This is really interesting. My dad was an organic chemist.
Was he really?
Yeah. He started in industry and then he went into academia. So a lot of things you're mentioning, I've heard.
Well, it's really interesting because we were in we had over $2.5 million worth of equipment in the research lab in Seattle.
I bet.
And show you a picture. Oh, you've got that on the front cover of the one I gave you.
Okay.
You can see the lab. We had
Oh,
two
yeah.
venting systems.
Uh-huh.
We had autoclaves.
Wow.
What an autoclave is a miniature reactor. And we could go up to 1,200 pounds per square inch, which is like a bomb.
Yeah,
If you do something wrong, you can blow the place up.
Yeah.
So our lab had a multi-spec, had 4-bolt EP. It had, we had as much equipment as really what a Lubrizol had by 1/10. In other words, they'd have 10 times the stands, but we had 1 stand of each of the things they had, and we did a lot of research at Southwest Research Institute, because that's where you get your approvals.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know where he wanted to go from here.
Well, I think you have really helped answer a lot of the questions I had.
Yeah.
And so
The big deal,
Yeah,
it's the situation with the loss of sperm whale.
yeah,
And it created a market. And we ended up filling it in the aftermarket.
yeah, and that's
That's the key.
yeah, and that's such a huge thing because as you were explaining, look at
How
the
many people would ever
incredible
even
impact.
figure it?
Yeah.
That you just wouldn't be able to figure it. Now, I'm gonna give you this because I think this is a value too for you to have. This is at the time I was selling ILI. This was the piece put together by Grant Thornton. Not Grant Thornton, by Deloitte Touche. Deloitte Touche represented us in the sale, and we went through segmentation, to sell our products. We got down to the final 3 companies, and then we had one at the end. In reality, a few years earlier, I had a Swiss company come up to me. I wish I had sold it to the Swiss. But I wanted to keep it in the United States,
Yeah.
so it's now in Cleveland.
Oh, I see. Oh, great.
That will give you detail after detail
Oh,
of
wonderful.
products. Let's make sure it's got, I hope it does. Because this makes your job that much easier.
Oh, yeah.
It shows the sales. What's the last year's sales it shows? 2011. 2006. Yeah, this has got it. See,
Oh, that's
Lubguard,
Perfect.
here we won, there's a magazine called, it's called Society of Tribologists and Lubrication Engineers. It's a society,
Yeah.
and we won the top award.
Wow. That's
Big time. For a little company coming out of Seattle.
amazing.
You realize there's nobody in this area except you could call Bartle as possibly, but they're really not, because he used naphthalene and other compounds that were not, it's a misrepresentation.
Yeah.
It's a true snake oil. Ours is real. Theirs was a snake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of what it is. Now, did you want to see it? Let's talk a little bit about that's transmissions and what led to an automotive company is developing. And I don't want to do this. I'm going to use this one. You can actually have this. This happens to be the house, the first house.
Oh,
There's
over
a
there.
development.
Yeah.
Why don't we come right out here? It's just so nice outside.
Oh, yeah. How's your knee doing, by the way?
Bothering me again. I'm trying to sleep. It's my right knee, but it's this damn. It's just like everybody. We're getting older. It's arthritis. I'm happy. All my friends.
Sucks.
My friends have hips, knees, and they're artificial. But that's the site. There it is. It's got the T-bone in it. It's got the, everything is developed. This is the first house we have planned. It's going to be on the right-hand side. And the left-hand side will have another house on the water, and then 2 above it.
Terrific.
So it's taken me almost 4 years
Oh,
to
yeah.
get this through. Well, it's got a city underground. I have pipes that are 50 feet long and 60 feet long, 6 foot high for storage,
Yeah.
just for storage water.
Yeah.
And then even Jerry's got a section. You made a copy of the huge vault that was.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing.
Day-long project.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But these are going to be nice houses. A great room. This is the
nice.
top floor. 3-car garages. And I can give this to you. So I've got that.
Oh,
Show you the
exciting.
house. Yeah. So that's going to be the first house in the property.
Because the largest one's going to be over 4,500 square feet, something like that.
This one's 4,600.
4,600, yeah.
And then the next one next to it will be about 4,500. And then the two above could be as high as 6,000, 7,000 square feet.
Gee,
They've got the land to
Yeah,
do it.
that's
so.
for sure.
But we love this lake.
Oh, yeah.
This is a totally private lake. There's no public access whatsoever. So we've lived here since '81, and I'll show you a couple pictures and you can see what it was before. It's got a story behind it, as every house does, but this was built in 1936, and it was owned by Alice Brome Soriano. Royal Brome, Brome Avenue. She was his only daughter. She died of cancer in the house. So we bought it from the family. But she was married to Soriano, Dewey Soriano, who the Seattle Pilots became the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
So it's a history.
Yeah.
It's a history. So that's the story, and that's
Wow.
and also
how to
friend,
work on this game.
and also friends of Jack Miller at Husky Deli.
Let's see. Well, I want to give you this. This is another friend of mine.
Oh,
He's a quite a man.
Yeah.
He died in the operating table of Washington. Heart operation, 8 hours. But he was a PGA professional golfer. I wanted to make sure we get his name
Oh, absolutely.
in as a Husky grad.
Yep.
When I say I started with a mess,
You weren't kidding.
I wasn't kidding. She just didn't have the money to keep
Yeah,
the place
of
up.
course. Mm-hmm.
Once he divorced her, I'm trying to find as you look through the other pictures, you see how it's kind of a crazy mess this place was. But I can't seem to spot the original starting point. In fact, that's a picture of my dad. You think I put some miles on myself?
Yeah.
And look at, we didn't have the products named yet, or
Yeah.
there's the bottle.
Yeah, there it is.
Fine,
Yeah.
didn't make it. Then I built this condo project out on Alki, and you probably know it, sticks out in the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
And they're reselling for $1 million plus now,
Wow.
if you can get one.
Yeah.
My parents had one. I wish they'd have kept it. It was the top on the where they just one unit on each on top.
Yeah.
I'd love to have kept that one.
Oh,
but we
yeah.
didn't do that. So.
Yeah. I know what you
And
mean.
this is boxes of history.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's just I narrowed that down
I bet.
from 50 boxes I brought home.
Ooh.
Wow.
But I've lost a lot of stuff. The big article in the Seattle Times when the 777 was out.
Yeah.
It's an article about Ioline right in that. Can't find it.
Yeah.
I can't find. I was in Business Week. I made that. I made a lot of different publications. They're all in that box.
Yeah.
Wherever it is.
Yeah.
Somebody stole it from me.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and what else was I gonna say? There's not much more. Seattle. My great grandfather came here, 1882. Yeah, after the Civil War. But they just showed Jerry some stuff that I just got from the archives of the Civil War.
Wow.
And because I want to know how he got here.
Yeah.
But I still don't know.
Oh,
Can't figure it out in there. But this is kind of.
Oh my goodness.
So
Look at
there's-
that.
But let me show you one thing that might intrigue you a little bit. There's an award given to University of Washington for this man. This man, his name was Dr. Don H. Palmer.
Jon Palmer. Yeah.
And it's the Palmer Award. And that's my grandfather's brother.
Is that right?
He's Don.
Yeah.
He was Frank Palmer. It was Frank Palmer and two others in this article.
Yeah.
You'll see that. But he founded the 101 Club, the Washington Athletic Club, the Blanket Parade, and the Big W Club.
Yeah.
He did all that. And he worked for he did for the youth
Yeah.
for free from, I think, what would they say, 1904 to 1947.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, he was a famous
Sure was.
for the Huskies.
Yeah.
A lot of donations were given, and if you you read that article,
Yeah.
it'll talk about all the Washington grads from the original group. Now, all of us, second and third generation, my dad went to the U,
Yeah.
my mom went to the U. We're so tied to the U, there isn't anything in our life that isn't.
That isn't, yeah.
You see that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was saying that.
It pretty much says it all.
He's too loyal to the U sometimes.
Yeah, it's Jerry. I drive Jerry nuts.
Give each other a bad time out there. But there's a
Now I used to be 5'11", but I'm even starting to look as grumpy as he does too. But I didn't have a bullet in my chest.
no.
Poor bastard. He carried a bullet for 12 years. Okay. I think you're asking me something I can't remember. The big championship? No, it's not. It's 2001. I went to that.
Yeah.
You know, the
I
only
was there
Rose
too.
Bowl that I missed was in 2002.
Was it?
And
Okay.
you know why I missed it? So I had a deal that I had to go to in Europe.
Yeah.
That I would have never missed that for anything in my life. I mean, we're finding.
Yeah.
I know Steve Emtman.
Yeah.
I know Steve. I know quite a few of those guys because a buddy of mine. Where's my phone? I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter. But I get pictures with Emtman. He just received the award for the greatest lineman
Yeah.
of all time in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And he's a huge man. He's a
He's
mammoth. Have you met him?
Yes, I have. Yeah. He's
mammoth.
mutant.
When he stands next to Dave Hoffman, the
Yeah.
linebacker,
Yeah.
look, he looks like a little kid. And then next to him, if you get Lincoln Kennedy,
Yeah.
geez, he's even
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
But Edmonds is huge mammoth.
Yeah.
#1 draft pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you'd like a copy of this, this is something that is real special. It's written by Dr. Landis. It talks about fluids. If you ever want to know anything about automatic transmission fluids, Jerry probably already told you what he did for his car, but
oh yeah.
saved a new transmission.
Yeah.
But it's got so much. You're not going to want to talk about
Yeah.
Newton meters and static and dynamic torque. You're not
Yeah.
going to want to talk.
No.
That's not. But to come out of the future, in my opinion, I really do believe that eventually vegetable oils, when they're finely refined in certain things, we made a viscosity index improver and it works. And the reality is the patent's now open for everyone, and we made the friction modifier. But there's even more that can be done with those materials.
Yeah.
But it takes young men
Yeah.
who want to study this. And this is the university that is into this is Penn State. They have a degree in tribology as a bachelor's degree, but no other university in the United States has it. And I personally think that I tried to get some chemistry students out of the U
Yeah.
that wanted to do some, some summertime work, but I could never get anybody to respond to me.
Wow.
And that was sad because
That's really
I
sad.
had the company. It was incorporated in '81, and I sold it in 12, then end of 2012. So all of those years,
Yeah.
and I was dying for young chemists, and I ended up with people from India. Geez, we couldn't get. I had 2 people from India. They're producing all the
Yeah.
chemists. It seems like nobody wants to take these courses anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you ever talk to Phil, if you want to talk to him, this is one of his big gripes. He says kids are not getting exposure right anymore, and they're cutting back on them.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Yeah. It's
I mean, we used to have the great engineers.
Yeah.
My dad loved his engineering. I mean, he got up at 5 in the morning working for the Corps of Army Engineers, and they did a lot of building, man. A lot of building over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's for sure. Much.
Oh,
Let me
I didn't
come
do
over.
anything.
I really appreciate it. So I'm gonna take all
the
this stuff, work, and so give me a couple weeks to because we're, like I said, in the midst of trying to get a magazine out the door and
You
all
got it.
that.
You're
And
busy.
Once we get that, then I want to sit down, go through this,
You
and start
bet.
drafting things and checking.
Not
things
a problem.
over, and then I'll when I have it in the shape I think is worth sharing, I'll provide it to you, and we'll see what we need
Yeah.
to make adjustments
Okay.
and get going from there.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think.
And